I'm Jenna Miscavige. I was born and raised in Scientology. I left when I was 21 years old and wrote a book about it. My uncle, David Miscavige, is the leader of Scientology, and this is my YouTube channel.
Hey you guys, so today I'm doing my video from the laundromat because my washer and dryer broke, and I was pretty bummed about it, and I had to take my daughter to an early volleyball game, and so we stopped at the laundromat to dry out like just her outfit for that. And I got kind of excuse me. And I got kind of excited because I kind of love laundromats, and I was trying to think about why is it that I have this affinity for laundromats. So when I thought about it, I was trying to figure out why I like laundromats. I realized that they reminded me of when I was in Scientology and when I was in the Sea Org, which is Scientology's most dedicated group of people that work full-time for Scientology. We lived communally, and basically we had a laundromat in the different places where I was. So I was in Clearwater, Florida, from when I was 12 until I was 16. And then from when I was 16 until I was 21, I was in Los Angeles. And both places had a laundromat of sorts. It was basically a room just like this that has a bunch of washers and a bunch of dryers. Except there was about 1,000 people in the Sea Org, and there was probably about 20 washers and 20 dryers, and we would all be expected to do them in the evening in one night, or I guess you could choose a different night, but we already got home at midnight, and so basically you had to wait forever to get a laundry machine. And there was a certain section that was dedicated only to executives laundry, and you weren't allowed to use that. So all these people would be waiting, and there was a whole bunch of laundry machines that were sitting there being unused. It was ridiculous. And you had to pay quarters out of your pay, which, when I was in Clearwater, wound up being $12. So you had to pay quarters out of your pay for your laundry, your soap, and all this stuff. And so it was just kind of a pain in the butt. And you had to do laundry because you usually only had 2 uniform shirts because they were really stingy on how many shirts they gave people. And usually you only had 1 pair of pants. And so you kind of had to do your laundry, or you had to hand wash it in your room. But what this wound up leading to was that there was a lot of people sitting around all night. And I was a teenager at the time. And so when I was in LA, it was from when I was 16 until I was 21, and I lived at the test center on Hollywood Boulevard. So the laundry room was in the basement, and it was sort of like a hangout spot, and it's kind of where you could see boys and flirt, and it was actually where my ex-husband first asked me out. And it was the first time he kissed me, and it was before he asked me out, I would sit there and wait and be is he coming? And so I think that that's why it has comforting memories associated with it, just because it's familiar. So I thought that was kind of funny. And this is so random, but also while we were waiting for our laundry in the test center building, it's called the Hollywood Inn. And while we were waiting for laundry, there was some people who would do swing dancing in the basement. They would turn on music, and they would team up and do swing dancing things, and they would do moves slide people under their legs, twist them around, and it's just so random, but it is a funny memory. And so I think that's why laundromats have a good association with me, because it's one of the only times we could kind of chill and just stay up at night and be teenagers, and so that was fun. But that brought to mind another subject, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because it seemed so normal to me at the time, but now that I look back at it, it's kind of crazy, and it's really indicative of how Scientology viewed kids. And so when I first joined the Sea Org, which again is a paramilitary organization, which is Scientology's most elite group, and you work 115-hour weeks, 7 days a week with little to no time off, I joined this when I was 12 in Clearwater, Florida, and I was 3,000 miles away from my parents, and I only went to school 1 day a week. And the organization I was in was called CMO, but I don't really need to get into explaining what exactly that is because it's just too wordy. And but basically, it's a senior level organization, and it's usually comprised of young girls, and there is an initiation ritual or initiation program that you have to get through in order to fully join CMO. And basically what it consists of is you have to do a bunch of courses and you have to pass tests on them, etc. But then your job during this time is to do the laundry of the most senior executives who are there in the Sea Org. And this includes executives from Religious Technology Center, which is the organization that my uncle is the head of, and he's the head of all of Scientology, but that's his organization. And so RTC is the senior most body. And so we would do the laundry of those people. We would clean their rooms, we would clean their offices, and we would bring them snacks and fancy food from the restaurants. And in order to get through this initiation program, we would have to basically get our work inspected, like our cleaning, like rooms that we cleaned, they would have to get a cleaning inspection and pass. So they would inspect them with a white glove to make sure there was no dirt anywhere. We learned how to fold laundry in a very specific way, and that would have to get a pass. Like we would have to scrub the armpits and the collars off of shirts and the cuffs especially. And then we would also have to get a pass on our ironing. So there couldn't be railroad tracks where we ironed the shirt right here. It had to be one line, and we had to iron it in an exact sequence, and we actually had to receive an inspection and a pass on this in order to complete this program. And so just looking back at it, it's kind of crazy that there's a bunch of 12 to 15-year-olds doing laundry of senior executives on the base. It's factually, it's just slave labor, and it's crazy. But at the time, it just seemed fun because I enjoyed it more than the actual heavy manual labor that we did at the ranch, which was more like rock hauling, trench digging, planting trees, things like that, or building cement walls, or carrying railroad ties. So to me, doing laundry and bringing snacks and cleaning was something that was just a lot easier. And I wound up doing this initiation ritual twice. And it's because I got in trouble. And so sometimes if you get in trouble, you get put back on that initiation ritual. And in the end, the reason I got in trouble was because I was in this group, CMO, which is supposed to be senior, and we were not allowed to fraternize with lower level group members. And that's what I did. That's what I got in trouble for. So I got put back onto this initiation ritual. And the second time I did it, it was actually with a boy who was 9 years old at the time. He was the newest and youngest recruit into the Sea organization, and he was on this program with me. And at the time, I thought of it as oh my God, he's so smart, he's so young, and that's amazing that he's able to do this program with me, and that's how everyone else thought of it. But looking back, it's just child abuse. It's just insane. And I didn't even think of him really as a kid because I had been at the ranch doing manual labor since I was 6 years old, not living with my parents. I did not currently live with my parents. And so I was often assigned to do things with him. His name was Sirio, and he was Italian. And his mom was a public who was a paying Scientologist. And she must have been some kind of model because she was really beautiful, and I would see her walking around the base. But he didn't live with his mom anymore. He lived communally in a dorm with other Sea Org members. And so I would be assigned to work with him, and so we would have to clean rooms together, do laundry, etc. And this child was so what's the word, mischievous. He would do things I'd be okay, Sirio, you clean this room and I'll clean the one next door. And he'd be okay, sure. And we would have to what we would do is like we would make all the beds, vacuum the floors, do all the dusting, do all the dishes and that sort of thing. And we would leave a sheet of paper on the executive's bed that would ask them to give us a vote for laundry, cleaning, and I believe ironing. And so that was our statistic. They would vote for us, and we would basically, if we got a good vote, then we would be able to potentially have a day off if it was our week or something like that, or we wouldn't be in trouble for having a down statistic. And so like the next day when I would come and collect the vote sheets, it would be like a low vote, and it would be like somebody put all the dishes in the oven. And I was like, Serial would like do things like put all the dishes in the oven so he didn't have to clean them. He would like shove the laundry under the bed. He like wouldn't even do the laundry sometimes. He would just like try to iron it without cleaning it. And I was like, my point of view at the time was like, oh my God, why am I stuck with this insane rascal that I have to keep under control? And he would even like, one time he was caught like a lot of the ceilings, it's how it is here. A lot of the ceilings were T-bar. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like there's these lines and then there's these like styrofoam panels. And one time he was found like inside one of the ceilings playing a video game, and he was there for like 9 hours. And at the time, like I never grew up playing video games. I never grew up watching TV or anything like that. So I was like, oh my God, this guy's Serial. He's like out of control. But it's like the most normal thing a kid could do. And it seemed kind of funny and annoying at the time. But looking back, it's actually really kind of sad that he was just kind of like, that he just kind of wasn't really being taken care of, and that maybe I wasn't even the nicest to him because I just thought he was so annoying, because I was only like 13 or 14 and I had never thought that, like I never thought of myself as a kid, so I certainly wasn't thinking of him as a kid. So it's just sort of crazy to remember that that's how it was. I mean, I remember the first time I went to Florida, I was about 9 years old, and my mom was a big executive on the base, and, she must have been in her late 30s, and the gal who was assigned to taking care of me was a 16-year-old, and her job was to do all my mom's laundry, was to bring my mom's snacks and, like, watermelon juice and all of these like chocolate dipped star fruit, and she also did the same work for my uncle, and she would clean their rooms, and she would iron their shirts, and she would clean their offices. And at the time she was older than me, so I thought nothing of it. But looking back, it's like this was a 16-year-old kid who wasn't going to school during the week and was doing all of this like sort of menial work, like almost like a Cinderella for senior executives. And it's just kind of messed up when you picture that. And I don't know how much of this still goes on, but it was definitely alive and well when I was there. And it's just a part of my past that I haven't done too much reflecting on. And it reminded me of that today here at the laundromat. So yeah. So I guess even though some of it's kind of messed up, I do still have good associations with the laundromat. I still think of it as the place where we could maybe just like hang out and have a bowl of cereal while we were doing our laundry. We usually would have to stay up till 3 a.m. in order to do it, but it was like other kids my age would be there, and again, it's where I met my ex-husband and where we first started dating, and it was just like a one place where it wasn't like this huge rush. I mean, it meant staying up all night, but that was kind of normal. We never got enough sleep. So it's kind of weird how something that is kind of a little bit off can have a good association for you, because maybe it was one of the better things that happened when you were there. And also your mind has to view things in a certain way in order to get through those times. And so it was definitely easier than many of the other things that I had to do when I was there. All right, well, now I'm just rambling on and on now. So thank you guys for listening. And I gotta go get my laundry out of the machine and probably have to go buy a washer and dryer today, which I am not excited about. But yeah, so wish me luck, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and thank you for listening. And check out Sins of Scientology on YouTube, and if you haven't read my book already, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Beyond Belief: My Secret Life Inside Scientology and My Harrowing Escape. All right, bye.